What does it take to survive? What must a leader become to save their people from total annihilation? What if survival required an alliance with a nomadic death cult? A band of mercenaries so brutal, so feared, that their initiation rites involved sacrificing their own children, and their battle rituals involved eating their enemies. This is not fantasy. This is the unhinged and absolutely true story of Queen Nzinga Mbande, a 17th century African ruler who, when faced with annihilation, didn't just fight back. She became a monster to hunt monsters. This is a story of brutal choices, terrifying alliances, and a will to power that defies belief. Nzinga, Queen of the Imbangala. To understand the monster, one must first understand the world that made her. This is 17th century West Central Africa, the Kingdom of Ndongo. A new power has arrived on the coast, the Portuguese. They are not here to trade. They are here for human cargo. The demand for slaves in the New World is insatiable. The Portuguese are pushing inland, capturing tens of thousands, depopulating entire regions, and pitting neighboring kingdoms against each other in a desperate scramble for survival. Ndongo is directly in their path. Nzinga's brother, Mbande, is the king. He is a weak and paranoid ruler, and he is losing. The Portuguese armies are relentless, and Ndongo is collapsing. In 1622, the desperate king does the only smart thing of his reign. He sends his estranged, brilliant, and utterly ruthless sister to negotiate a peace treaty in the Portuguese stronghold of Luanda. He sends Nzinga. When Nzinga arrives in Luanda, the Portuguese governor, João Correia de Sousa, immediately tries to humiliate her. This is psychological warfare. He receives her in a grand audience hall. He sits on a lavish velvet throne raised on a platform. For Nzinga, the ambassador of a foreign king, he offers nothing, only a simple mat on the cold floor. In the culture of Ndongo, this was the ultimate insult. To sit on the floor before another was to admit one was a servant, a slave. The entire negotiation would be lost before a single word was spoken. The room is silent. The Portuguese officials are smirking. They believe they have already won. Nzinga does not flinch. She does not complain. She shows no anger. She simply turns, looks at one of her female attendants, and claps her hands. The attendant understands instantly. She walks to the center of the room and gets down on her hands and knees, bracing herself. She becomes a human throne. Nzinga, in all her royal regalia, gracefully sits on her servant's back, bringing her to the exact same eye level as the Portuguese governor. The entire room is stunned. In one silent, powerful move, Nzinga has declared, "You and I are equals. I will not be subjugated." She then proceeds to negotiate circles around the governor. She speaks fluent Portuguese. She is witty, charming, and terrifying. She secures a peace treaty and a promise from the Portuguese to withdraw from Ndongo. She even agrees to be baptized as a political maneuver, taking the Christian name Dona Ana de Sousa. She is a master of the game. But she is about to find out the game is rigged. The Portuguese betrayed the treaty. It was only ink on paper. They continued their slave raids. Nzinga's brother, driven to despair, commits suicide. Or perhaps Nzinga, seeing he was unfit to rule, had him murdered. The historical record is cloudy. Either way, Nzinga seizes the throne. She is now Queen of Ndongo. The Portuguese immediately declare open war on her. They hunt her relentlessly. They drive her from her capital, out of her kingdom. She becomes a queen on the run, a refugee in her own land. She loses her sisters, her army, her power. She is cornered, desperate. And in the depths of desperation, one looks for allies in the darkest of places. And Nzinga finds the Imbangala. The Imbangala were not an army. They were a nightmare, a nomadic warrior society that had rejected all normal life. They lived in moving, fortified camps called quilombos. They didn't grow crops. They didn't have traditional families. They had only one purpose: war. To join them, one had to renounce all human ties. Their initiation rite, the mubangi, was an oath of absolute loyalty, sealed by the new member killing their own child. The body was then ground into a magical ointment. This was done to sever all compassion, to create a perfect hollow weapon. In battle, they were infamous for practicing ritual cannibalism, consuming the hearts of their bravest enemies to gain their strength. These are the people Nzinga turns to. But she doesn't just hire them, she becomes them. This is where the story turns. Nzinga, the baptized Dona Ana, undergoes their rites. Historical sources claim she sacrificed a captive in their rituals. She renounces her past. She adopts their brutal nomadic lifestyle. She takes it even further. She shatters every rule of gender and power. She takes a harem of men. She forces them to dress as women and act as her wives. She in turn takes the title of king, not queen, leading her quilombo in battle, axe in hand. The terror of the Portuguese was absolute. The cunning diplomat was gone. In her place was a warlord queen leading a cannibal army, sweeping through the land, burning everything in her path. She wasn't just fighting the Portuguese anymore. She was hunting them. For 30 years, Nzinga waged a relentless war. The Imbangala were her perfect weapon, a blunt, brutal instrument. But she was a strategist. She knew they were a tool, not a foundation. While her Imbangala forces ravaged the Portuguese, she used her political skill to conquer the nearby kingdom of Matamba, a wealthy state she could use as her new defensible base. And once she had it, once she was secure, she did the most Nzinga thing imaginable. She betrayed the Imbangala. She broke with their brutal customs, declared herself queen of Matamba, and began to build a new, stable state. She was a master of using and discarding her tools. Whether it was the Portuguese religion or a cannibal death cult, Nzinga was a chameleon. When the moment demanded a diplomat, she was the best. When the moment demanded a warlord, she was the most terrifying. She played the long game. She allied with the Dutch when they arrived to challenge the Portuguese. When the Dutch lost, she pivoted again. In her old age, she reconverted to Christianity. She wrote letters to the Pope. She solidified her new kingdom of Ndongo Matamba. She was no longer just a warrior. She was a stateswoman. When the Portuguese, exhausted after decades of war, finally came to her for peace in 1657, Nzinga was over 75 years old. She had outsmarted, outfought, and outlived every single enemy who had ever crossed her. She died in 1663 at the age of 81, not in battle, not on the run, but in her bed, in her capital, as the respected and feared queen of a kingdom that would remain independent for centuries. Nzinga's story is not a simple one of good versus evil. It is a brutal story of survival. She was born into a world of fire and blood, and she chose to become the fire. A hero, a monster, a freedom fighter, a ruthless opportunist. She was all of them. She was what the moment demanded. A queen who sat on her servant, a warlord who led a death cult, and a diplomat who died in peace. She was, without a doubt, one of the most brilliant and hardcore rulers in all of human history.
If you found this story of a ruler's unhinged path to survival compelling, please like this video and subscribe to our channel, making sure to hit the notification bell so you never miss another journey into the darkest corners of history.